From 2007 to 2009, middle-aged single men in Japan were dying under mysterious circumstances. At first, the police paid no attention to it, but just one case exposed the secret of a woman the press dubbed the Black Widow. Kanae Kijima was born on November 27, 1970, in Nakashibetsu, Japan. She was the eldest of 4 siblings. Though her relatives' names were never made public, it is known that her father was a notary and her mother was a piano teacher. Coming from well-off families, Kanae's parents raised their children in comfortable conditions, providing everything they needed as they grew up. However, as the firstborn, Kanae received special attention. Inspired by her mother's passion for music, she began developing her piano skills. She spent countless hours honing her technique, and in a very short time, her talent became evident. She even performed solo concerts on various stages and participated in prestigious competitions. But music wasn't her only interest. By the age of 9, she already knew how to cook, a skill her mother believed would make her a good wife someday. At the same time, her father enforced strict discipline at home to raise his children properly, including restricting TV access. He also barely gave them any personal spending money. Kanae easily adapted to these rigid rules and was an active, excellent student. However, the lack of financial freedom was much harder for her to handle. She had a tendency toward luxury and extravagance. In this context, she entered a relationship with a man around 40, whose identity remains unknown. Under his influence, Kanae stole a bank book from one of her classmates, and together they withdrew about $80,000. When authorities caught them, they were arrested and put on trial. Since Kanae was still a minor, she received a suspended sentence. Despite this, she maintained excellent grades and graduated high school. Afterward, she decided to move to Tokyo and enroll in an economics program. However, her interest in studies faded almost immediately, and she dropped out. Yet, she was enchanted by the city and didn't want to leave. To make ends meet, she took on several unstable temporary jobs, one of them being a waitress at a fast food restaurant. The long hours, harsh environment, and low wages wore her down. She constantly worried about paying rent for the modest apartment she hated. It was only a matter of time before Kanae developed a new vile habit. She would enter stores pretending to be a regular customer and steal cosmetics, books, and even money. Though caught a few times, she managed to avoid arrest. But these petty thefts weren't enough to sustain the lifestyle she desired. So, Kanae quit her job and decided to work for an escort club. These establishments offered services ranging from casual conversations and social companionship to more intimate encounters. Clients could choose women based on provided profiles. However, standing at 150 centimeters tall and weighing 105 kilograms. Kanae didn't fit conventional beauty standards, so she initially attracted little attention. But everything changed when she met a pimp named Tokiuchi, who became her mentor. He taught her how to satisfy men, inspired her to develop a full-fledged marketing strategy, and advised her to target middle-aged or older men with low self-esteem, those who wouldn't dare pursue the women they truly desired. Realizing the value of her skills and charms, Kanae learned to forge emotional connections with her partners. She discovered that kindness and attentiveness not only drew men in, but also earned their gratitude. Kanae became an expert in the art of seduction, mastering the ability to read people and discern their desires. She unlocked a newfound power within herself. During this time, Kanae adopted the alias Sakura and began weaving elaborate lies. To some, she claimed her father was a professor at Tokyo's most prestigious university. To others, she posed as a nurse, a therapist, or even a renowned chef. These fabricated stories crafted an irresistible allure. In her new role, one of her clients was Sadao Fukuyama. They met in February 2001 at a bar, and their connection was so intense that within 2 weeks, they became lovers. But that wasn't all. Sadao, a man known for his frugality and careful spending, made the mistake of trusting her, something Kanae shamelessly exploited. First, she spun a tale about her parents dying in a plane crash, claiming she could no longer afford tuition at a music school in Boston where she supposedly studied. Sadao promised to cover all expenses, and in return, she vowed to visit him once a month from the U.S. Eagerly awaiting these visits, he would dress impeccably, deeply in love with the woman he believed was his fiancée. Meanwhile, Kanae drained most of his savings. Years later, realizing she had exhausted Sadao's financial resources, Kanae ended the relationship. Cunning and manipulative, she left no trace that could lead back to her. Though Sadao suspected he'd been deceived, there wasn't enough evidence to open an investigation. A few months later, in August 2007, Sadao failed to show up for work. Concerned, a colleague went to his home and found him dead in the shower. By the time the news became public, Kanae had already transferred $50,000 from her former fiancé's accounts into her own. Since the police couldn't determine the cause of death, the case was closed as a domestic accident. In 2008, Kanae turned her attention to Japan's growing internet scene. Recognizing the potential of the virtual world, she adapted her strategy. Under the alias Sakura, she created profiles on major local dating platforms, presenting herself as a woman seeking a serious relationship leading to marriage. Kanae understood her targets perfectly: men burdened by high-pressure jobs and social expectations, financially well-off but emotionally empty. Her approach was fluid, shifting personas based on her victims' preferences. Sometimes she played the role of a young woman searching for true love, other times a talented pianist or even a pet shop owner with a passion for cooking. It didn't take long for her to become an online sensation, particularly popular among older men desperate to give meaning to their twilight years. One such man was Takao Terado, a 53-year-old systems engineer from Tokyo whose life revolved solely around work and occasional contact with his mother and sister. In February 2008, he decided to try online dating. Within 2 months, Kanae reached out, expressing hopes for marriage. But first, she asked for financial help. At the same time, posing as a nurse and caregiver for the elderly, Kanae responded to an online ad posted by Kenzo Ando, an 80-year-old man from Noda, Chiba Prefecture. Though his income was modest, Kenzo came from a respected family. His father had been a renowned artist, leaving behind valuable works. Kenzo also suffered from health issues. In their first exchange, Kanae sent him a carefully retouched photo revealing only a sliver of her body. Kenzo was impressed and hired her as both a caregiver and a personal chef. Kanae not only prepared special meals for him, but went out of her way to please him, earning his complete devotion and gratitude. A month later, she asked Kenzo for a loan, claiming she needed the money for university tuition. Without hesitation, he handed over his entire savings. Meanwhile, Kanae was also manipulating Takao, who, overwhelmed with emotion, told his mother about his devoted fiancé and their plans to marry. Kenzo, in turn, trusted Kanae so deeply that he gave her a copy of his house key. But then, he suddenly fell into a coma and was hospitalized. In his absence, Kanae entered his home repeatedly, stealing valuable paintings and selling them for high prices. At the same time, she was deceiving other men, though their names were never made public. They were all between 40 and 50 years old. While Takao dreamed of their future together, Kanae had a very different plan. She bought electric stoves online, arranged to meet at his home, and brought sleeping pills with her. After cooking dinner for them both, she crushed the pills and mixed them into his food. Within minutes, Takao lost consciousness. Kanae dragged him into a room, sealed all doors and windows, set up the stoves, placed charcoal on them, and turned them on. Before leaving, she transferred $121,000 from Takao's account to her own, taking his house keys and computer with her. 5 days later, on February 4th, 2009. Takao's boss came to check on him after he failed to show up for work. Authorities were called and his lifeless body was discovered. When investigators checked his call history, the only contacts were his mother, sister, and Sakura, Kanae's alias. When questioned, Kanae claimed Takao had been emotionally unstable and likely took his own life after she rejected his marriage proposal. With no signs of violence, police found her story plausible and closed the case. After Kenzo woke from his coma, Kanae visited him on May 15, 2009. As usual, she cooked dinner, but this time she laced his food with sedatives. Once he was unconscious, she locked him in a room and repeated the stove and charcoal method. Before leaving, she transferred $13,000 from his account to hers. But this time, one of the stoves caught fire, engulfing the entire house. Kenzo died instantly from fatal burns. An autopsy revealed an abnormal amount of sedatives in his system, despite him never having taken such drugs before. Yet, authorities still ruled his death an accident. Meanwhile, Kanae continued blogging, hunting for new victims online. In July 2009, a 41-year-old bachelor named Isayuki Oide stumbled upon her profile. Enchanted, he messaged her. Isayuki had a stable income from both his job and family rental properties. He was also very close to his mother, who lived in Fujisawa. Kanae posed as a graduate student seeking financial support and a future husband. Intrigued, Isayuki invited her to meet. As days passed, Kanae deepened their bond, convincing him they were engaged. Under the guise of a marriage agreement, she persuaded him to transfer $30,000 for her tuition. On August 5th, 2009, they planned a trip to Fujisawa, where Isayuki eagerly anticipated introducing Kanae to his mother. He was so excited he even blogged about their upcoming wedding. Kanae prepared a lavish dinner, secretly drugging Isayuki's food. After the meal, they drove to Fujisawa in a rented car. Once parked, the pills took full effect, and Isayuki fell into a deep sleep. Kanae set up the stoves, lit the charcoal, and left him to die. But this time, she made a mistake. She forgot to leave the keys in the car. A security camera captured her walking away. She then stole $35,000 from his account. When police found Isayuki's body, they initially assumed suicide. But the missing car keys, lack of a note, and no charcoal residue on his hands raised suspicions. His mother insisted he had no reason to kill himself. He had been happier than ever. An autopsy confirmed carbon monoxide poisoning, but also found traces of tranquilizers. Connecting the dots, police realized 3 other bachelors had died the same way that year. Security footage exposed Kanae, but without additional evidence, they couldn't immediately arrest her. Still, she was now their prime suspect. On September 15, 2009, Kanae contacted another 43-year-old man online, posing as an American culinary student in financial distress. She convinced him she'd drop everything to be with him. The next day, he sent her $17,000. And soon after, she moved into his home. She bought 2 electric stoves and disabled the fire alarms. But her plan unraveled when the man's sister visited on September 23rd, immediately distrusting Kanae. After learning about the suspicious loan, she alerted police. On September 25th, officers raided the house and arrested Kanae. They found disabled alarms, sedatives, and records of her stove purchases, linking her directly to the previous deaths. In January 2010, she was charged with fraud. By February, she faced murder charges for Takau's death. Though no autopsy had been performed, prosecutors argued the circumstantial evidence, her presence before each death, the identical methods, and the victim's sedated states, was overwhelming. At trial, Kanae pleaded innocent, claiming the men's deaths were either accidents or suicides. Her defense argued there was no direct proof. But prosecutors emphasized the pattern. All victims had given her large sums, all died the same way, and all had sedatives in their systems, just like the drugs found in her possession. On April 13, 2012, the jury convicted Kanae of 3 counts of murder. She was sentenced to death, yet even on death row, she continued blogging, gaining a following. Shockingly, a fan, a man in his 60s, married her in 2015 and financially supported her until an accident left him disabled. She divorced him shortly after. Kanae also wrote a memoir, serialized in a women's magazine, and published an autobiographical novel. 100 days after her divorce, she married again, this time to a real estate entrepreneur. But the marriage lasted only months before ending in another divorce. In 2018, Kanae decided to marry once again, this time to a 40-year-old man working at the publishing house responsible for releasing her book. While awaiting execution, Kanae continued living a highly controversial life, evoking both fascination and outrage. So friends, what do you think of this story? Share your thoughts in the comments. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on social media. All the links are in the video description below. See you next time. Thank you.